We are the Georgia Worship Choir, and we're on a journey to parts unknown. Want to join us? See, we believe there is still a place for choirs in modern worship, and that God still uses choirs to bless people. But with fewer churches having choirs, where is a singer to go? So we're asking the question, is it possible for a community worship choir to exist? Would total strangers with nothing more in common than a love for singing and a love for Jesus come together to form a choir? That's the grand experiment. That's the journey we're on. Come along with us, and together we shall see. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Georgia Worship Choir podcast. I'm Dean Oliver, the founder and director of the choir, and in today's episode, we're going to do part 2 of a 3-part series. A while back, I had a conversation with my wife, Robin, who's heavily involved in the choir, and our board president, Hope, and we had about a 90-minute conversation just answering questions that we get presented to us from time to time about how do you guys do this community worship choir thing. And so in the last episode, we listened to the first part of that conversation. And today we're going to listen to another 20 minutes or so of that conversation. We'll drop in the middle on a question that we get asked a lot about, why don't you guys stream or film your rehearsals so that people that live further away from you can participate? So we'll start with that question, listen to some other questions and comments from our current season, and then I'll come back in just a few minutes to wrap things up. Hope you enjoy. I'm going to toss this question out to both of you, and we won't give a lot of time to this, but just hit on it. I've had a lot of people ask us, why don't you guys stream your rehearsals or film your rehearsals? If you guys could do that, then I could watch from my location and learn the music. And I'll say that right now I'm smack dab in the middle, 50-50 on the concept. What about y'all?
I can see pros and cons. I feel like my gut reaction when I've been asked about this so far, I'm not saying I would not change my mind, but I think an important part of Georgia Worship Choir is not just the singing of the music, but it's the relationships. And we'll talk more about that in other podcasts, I'm sure. But a huge part of Georgia Worship Choir is the family atmosphere we have. And people love the music, we love the worship. But the thing that has surprised us the most is the way we have formed friendships and relationships among the choir members. And I feel like that energy is so important leading up to the worship experiences or concerts at the end of the season. And if people were consistently just watching the video from home or from afar and showing up for the concert, they would have missed out on so much of what Georgia Worship Choir is all about. What do you think, Hope?
I would echo that. However, I do see in the day and age we live in the Zoom age, in post-COVID, I see the benefit of how it could reach people that may not be able to participate otherwise, whether it be distance or even having small children. Maybe they could get childcare for a concert night, but they couldn't get childcare on a weekly basis, something like that. Those situations, they definitely would miss out on a lot of fellowship. And I think there could be some brainstorming to see how perhaps for those who are quote unquote remote members, maybe they would be required to come to 2 rehearsals throughout the season, or definitely the dress rehearsals so that they can meet everyone else. But I think even as far as sickness goes, it would allow people to feel like they got all the content they needed, did not feel behind. So yes, definitely pros and cons. I think especially if we're having trouble securing another location, whether it be we need an assistant director or we need enough staff to man that location, that could be a growing pain we include. Like, let's branch out this way. And then once we have that population, if that population is centered somewhere, let's look there for a church to have the second location. So it could be a means to an end, something that we entertain short term in order to get to that goal of having multiple practice locations.
Yeah, I agree with everything that y'all said, and I think there are just two big barriers in my mind to that. I think we'll end up testing it. I think we'll just have to, because it's gnawing at us, and we've had so many people ask. But I think the two biggest barriers to that is, quite frankly, just the logistics of, okay, who's going to film it? Who's going to edit it? Who's going to,
Just the equipment.
yeah, the equipment, the editing, because that's just one more layer of administrative activity. And, we're so focused on the rehearsal in the room that it would take somebody really just owning that and saying, hey, I'll do that. That'll be my ministry, is I'll film the rehearsal, I'll edit it, I'll upload it and make it available. So that really is the number one thing. But the other issue, they miss out, but we miss out on getting to know them, And so if they just join us at the end of the season and pop in on a dress rehearsal, we don't know who they are, and they may know the music, but we don't have time to get to know them and just have any kind of friendship or fellowship there. So I think if we did it, we'd have to do a hybrid where, like Hope said, we'd require them to come in person to some of the rehearsals. The other part of that is, I know we're going to have to test it. We're going to have to try it. But my fear is, what if we test it and for some people it works wonderfully well, but we realize, okay, that's just an overreach. We just don't have the manpower to keep doing that every season, and we have to pull it back. So then you got people who've grown accustomed to joining us that way, and then if we pull it away, then, there's some disappointment and hurt there. But anyway, we digress. That's just something that's kind of one of the growing pains that Hope mentioned that we wrestle with. How do we expand this ministry to the people that want it and want to be a part, that they just can't physically make that distance? Okay, Robin, teams. Tell us about teams and what they do.
So when we first started Georgia Worship Choir, Dean and I were the admin team, I guess, the behind the scenes crew. And as we have grown in numbers over the last 5 seasons, we realized, was it the 3rd season we began teams? 4th season.
Yeah.
We've got to find a way to share the load, because we would have people come up and say, how can we help? And in the moment, it was hard to delegate and teach people how to do it in the middle of the season. So we began a program called Teams, and we had, I believe, 8 to 10 teams. And we had an admin team, we had a facilities team, we had a hospitality team, communications, marketing, and we had people sign up and volunteer to be on these different teams to help just with the whole season. For instance, on a day of rehearsal, when the new people arrive, we have tables set up for sign in and for making name tags. Well, we needed people to help set up the tables and put out all the information. So we have an administration team who helps register the people when they arrive. So for a typical Sunday practice, you arrive for practice, you stop at the name tag table. If you don't have a name tag, make a name tag, stop at the sign-in table. Someone from our admin team will check you in. Then we have a marketing team, and we have a member care table, and those team members will every week have maybe a newsletter or prayer cards, little mints or snacks for the practice itself, information to give out about teams. The choir member will then go into the worship center and sit in their section. The admin team has helped put the music packets together before practice. We have a team that helps Dean with the setup of the music and the speakers and the microphones. We have a music team. This past Sunday, we had several gifted pianists within our choir, and so Dean used them to help lead practice. Different songs, different pianists would go up and play a couple of songs a piece so that it's the same person's not having to play every song. we have a hospitality team that sets up every week a refreshment time at the end of the practice. The singers can stop by and have water and snacks, and it's a time of fellowship, and that's something the hospitality team does. At the end of every season, we have a dinner, a celebration dinner for our choir and their family members, where we just celebrate the season and have a lot of fun. And that's part of our hospitality team. Have I left anything out?
No,
Just
that's
a glimpse.
yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
And just I have people asking, how do you do music?
Mhm.
Hope, do you want to talk about what we require of people musically? Like what's the big beast that everybody is afraid of?
The audition.
Mhm.
Is that
Well,
what
yeah, that too. But what is it that everybody worries about with the
you
music?
got to stop with these pop quizzes.
Memorizing.
Memorizing.
Memorizing? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. We think that we have to come in and have all this music memorized when we really only have to memorize the, our parts, our melody parts. And we have words on the screen for us in the concerts. So it is good for us to have the words memorized in case technology fails. But for the most part, we're just memorizing our singing parts and we have the words there for us. But we do not hold music on the stage, which is really good.
Yeah.
So
And why do we make that effort? Why don't we hold music on stage?
so that our hands and arms and full bodies are available for worship. And also so that we're projecting more. When you're looking out and singing, you are much louder than if you're looking down into a notebook. So,
Well, and we see people's faces, and we're not downing choirs. Like I lead a church choir, and we couldn't memorize the music every week. We have to use the music. So we're not down on that. But when you do hold music and perform from the music, our habits, we all know, is to just bury our gaze upon that music and our heads are down. And so we're not looking out at the audience and engaging with them visually. But yeah, the memory, that scares a lot of people. And Hope said 13 to 15 songs. And some of those, like 3 or 4 of those songs, are going to be congregational songs that we get the congregation, the audience involved in singing, that they're not choir performed songs. So even with that, let's say we've got 10 or 11 songs that are performance songs and people worry about how are we going to memorize all this? Well, we use planning center services, which is the gold standard in the church world for music ministries and how they just administrate their duties and run their teams. And we store all the music there. We purchase all the music that we do, buy all the licensing and all that. And then we store that on Planning Center and store voice parts. We have their tenor voice part and their alto, soprano, bass. And so we tell everybody, just listen to your voice part tracks the first part of the season and just drill your part. And then when you think you've got it, then listen to the overall demo recording and see if you can hold your part when all that comes together. And we use tracks. People ask us, well, why don't you do live musicians? And we're not opposed to that concept. And we hope that one day we can work toward that. But it's a leadership issue. We don't have anyone just championing that right now. And that would add a lot of layers of scheduling and rehearsing and all that kind of stuff. So right now we use tracks that we purchase and I run them from the iPad, and it's consistent, it's reliable, and we don't have to schedule the iPad. It's always there. So that's one of the reasons. Hope, how do you think, let's talk about this season. How do you think it's going so far? Let's talk about the pros of this season, and then we're going to get into some of the challenges in just a moment. But what's going well right now?
I think the energy from the new people is always a plus, especially since the newbies outnumber veterans. It's exciting to see. And it's just more of the building of the community. I think the music is phenomenal. It's always fun to try and pick a theme. Like once we know all of the songs, like, okay, it's always like we're always trying to read Dean's mind, I guess. Like, where's he going with this program? What's the theme really going to blossom out to be? And we also try to pick out the order of the songs of the concerts, and that's always fun to banter back and forth with each other about. So we put in a lot of fun elements into our rehearsals so that it's not just, okay, you come and you sit in a pew and you sing for an hour and a half. There's interaction back and forth, whether it be we have a fun bingo game that we play throughout the season. We also encourage everyone to, in those fellowship times, to really get to know people, be on the lookout if there's any silly quirks that people have so that they can get something special at the end of the season for being the most unique in this area, that kind of thing. So we always try to implement fun little things, and those things are just getting started in the season. I feel like we're still just in the first third of the season, I guess. So people are still getting used to it, but we're starting to get comfortable and getting into a rhythm. So it's been a lot of fun so far.
Yeah. And rehearsals have become worship. You know, it's, it's always tough at the very beginning when you're banging out parts and you just have to learn the notes. And that can be dry and dull. We try to make it fun. We try to use our humor, but some of the songs are a lot easier than others. And so on the songs that are already coming together, like What a Beautiful Name, we're doing an arrangement of that this season. And man, I don't know how y'all felt, but Sunday when we were singing that, it just felt like worship. It wasn't a rehearsal. It was worship. And so I can already tell. We always struggle with emotion in the concerts because we get teared up. And I mean, there's a lot. We run the entire gamut of emotions. We have joy. We have intimate moments. We have crying. We have laughter. I mean, it's all over the place. We're at 95. I don't know that we'll keep the 90s. We usually have some people drop off, but I know we're going to be in our 80s by the time concerts roll around. And that will be our largest group. And when you get 80 people on stage who know their music, they are ready to perform that music. They love the music. They love the message. And they've got friends and family out there listening. God just comes into that space and moves, and we get teared up, and we get it's just amazing. So I don't want to chase that too far, but it's wonderful. And I think you're right, Hope. I think there's a lot of energy, and you know, Robin, wouldn't you say, I think this season more than any other season, the new people have come on strong.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's the orientation process and they felt more comfortable from the very beginning, but I've seen more interaction from new people. They're not hanging back. I mean, they're signing up for teams. They're getting involved. They've shown up for board meetings, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh, yes. I feel like one thing we have noticed this season already is the orientation process, I think, has been a plus. It's gone smoother. I feel like it prepares us for that first launch rehearsal. We've taken care of a lot of the odds and ends before the big day, the party, the launch. But the new singers, I think they have even commented to us, a few of them, that it has been a very smooth, professional process, and they've been impressed with the organization, which we are excited that they can see that, because in the past we have at times felt the growing pains, and with growing pains we have felt disorganized at times because we've been learning as we go. So I think this season we have felt more prepared at the beginning of each rehearsal, and the new singers can see that, and they're beginning to see, oh wow, this is running like a machine in a good way. And so I think we've attracted some really talent this season too. We have a lot of very talented, gifted singers who have joined the choir, and a lot of that is through word of mouth, but we have had a lot of people tell us stories about, I've moved here from out of town, I missed choir, I Googled community worship choir because I have a passion for singing, and that's how they found us. And we have already heard and met some great singers, and you're right, they are jumping in and wanting to get involved from the very beginning in ways that we haven't always seen. They just go, okay, what's this team about? How can I do this? You know, I'm ready to work. And we love it.
I agree. And Hope, I think this will be a good place since we're talking about their engagement. Tell us a little bit about the board structure and how the new people are already getting involved in that.
So our board is made up of 11 people, and they're not all singers, but most of them are singers, and they each serve a different amount of time, whether it be 1 to 2 years or 3-year stretches. And we meet once a month to discuss the affairs of the choir and make decisions for the choir. And one of the things that we've implemented this year so far is one board meeting a season will be what we call a general session, where we allow anyone who wants to come and sit in on the meeting for a portion of time. And in that time, they listen in on the business that we're conducting, but we also open the floor to them like a town hall, where they're allowed to share their opinions, their concerns, bring up questions, share new ideas with us so that we can take it under advisement and either discuss it there and decide on it right then and there, or decide to discuss it further in the next meeting. So we had that first general session in February, and we had, I want to say 9 people who were not a part of the board attend. And it really was a wonderful time for them to share how they're not only enjoying the choir so far, some of them were brand new, but it opened up a door for us to see how dreamy they are. They have dreams, and they have hopes and aspirations for what the choir can be. And that, I know, encouraged and motivated the board and spurred us on, because it's not only the board, it's not only the alumni, it's not only Dean that holds the passion for the choir, it's the choir as a whole that holds this passion and wants to see it succeed. So when you have so many new people come in with talents beyond music, talents beyond singing, they bring their web development skills, their tech skills, their marketing skills, all of these things, and want to offer it to us. It just propels us forward. It keeps us from being stuck in, how is this going to get done? It really does encourage us. So it's been a great thing to see.
I think that was one of your best ideas, Hope, is just opening that up. And Hope didn't mention, but we do have monthly meetings, but only every other meeting is live and in person. We do Zoom meetings on those alternating months, but Hope, I thought that was a great success, and I think you're right. I think it energized the board. It made us realize that this is something we all have some ownership in. It's God's choir, it's his vision, but we feel like he's called us into it for a purpose. And I tell the choir all the time, even though I was the founder, this is not the Dean Oliver Chorale, and this will live on, hopefully, long after I'm gone, whether I step aside and another director comes in or I go on to heaven. I want this to exist because I truly believe in the power of singing together. And I think there's a real need for community worship choirs. It's doing everything that Robin and I envisioned and hoped for in the beginning, and just seeing people come from all over Atlanta. Okay, folks, that's where we'll pause the conversation today. Hope you enjoyed that. And then in the next episode, we will hear the conclusion of that conversation. Listen, thank you for dropping in today. Thank you for your interest in what we're doing. And if you haven't already gone to our website, please do so. It's georgiaworshipchoir.com. And there you'll find updated information about upcoming concerts, about the next recruiting season, and also sign up for our newsletter so that you can be informed of all of our activities all throughout the year. Thanks again for stopping by. We'll hope you come again, and we'll look forward to future conversations. Have a great week.